Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Sportslook, the sports television program for the high plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. I'm your host, Doc Elder, and I beg to differ with Shania Twain because that does impress me much that we are going to have Paul Weir, the athletic director of Eastern New Mexico University, as one of our guests. We're also going to have Brandon Mizuraka, the head coach of Greyhound men's soccer. I'll finish up with an overtime, but as always, I'll start out with an Eastern recap. It was kind of a quiet weekend for Eastern athletics. We only had softball and baseball that were in action. Softball playing against nationally ranked University of Texas Tyler, and Tyler took all three of the games. The Greyhounds were playing a team that had won 7 straight games, University of Texas Tyler, but they didn't win an 8th straight because on Sunday afternoon, the Greyhounds beat Tyler by a score of 17-14. Well, that will wrap up the Eastern recap, so we'll clear the set, and I'll bring in my first guest, Paul Weir, right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and a privilege to bring back to the set of Sportslook the athletic director of Eastern New Mexico University, Dr. Paul Weir. And Paul, thanks so much for making time to be our guest.
Thanks for having me on, Doc. It's a pleasure.
Speaking of time, the calendar may say that we've only got 28 days left in the sports year at Eastern New Mexico University, but in those 28 days, a lot of things are going to be happening.
We do, very busy. And this time of year, as you know, is baseball and softball front and center. With the wind presents a lot of challenges, trying to find the right day to play games and avoid the weather, not only at home, but on the road. And it keeps our staff on our toes. We have obviously our track and field teams competing as well. And then spring football just started. So it's busy around here, even though, to your point, people kind of see the end of the school year coming. It's quite busy on a day-to-day basis.
Well, let's talk a little bit about baseball. Of course, we were playing a home series, and on a very, very windy Sunday afternoon, light poles started to sway. We quite properly canceled the game for a safety reason, took down the lights. And so can you give us a status report on what's going to happen with lights at Greyhound Field?
That's a great question. I think we would all like or have wanted to improve the lighting situation. Those are kind of some older lights. They don't work great at different times. We wanted to upgrade them to kind of LED lighting. So we're waiting to kind of see how the state legislature and their appropriations to universities and athletics are going to finish up. We're waiting to see what the insurance ideas might be on the lights we currently have, our own funding, our budget, our fundraising as well. And hopefully at the end of this, we can come up with a good long-term plan for lighting at the baseball stadium.
So theoretically, next year, there will be a different look at Greyhound baseball field. But this year, we definitely had a different look at Greyhound softball field. That is a fantastic facility now.
Beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. We obviously did the infield turf that everyone kind of saw last year, and then this year finished it out, did the outfield turf, redid the outfield fencing with it. It's truly a first-class facility right now. It's really probably our best-looking facility from an athletic standpoint. We're really proud of it.
I totally concur. And not only is the field itself good, but the softball team's been pretty good this year, too.
Very much so. I think actually baseball and softball, I really don't want to single one out over the other. I feel like they've both made a step from last year. And if you look at all of our programs, most of them have really had a nice step up this year from last year. I think coming out of COVID and trying to get caught up to some of our partner schools in Texas who did not miss the previous year 2 years ago. This year, we've really kind of got underneath ourselves a little bit and performed so much better, softball team and baseball teams included.
Yeah, going back to baseball for a second, a mark of distinction this year is, and here again, I'm not going to knock on wood because we actually do have 2 more home series to play, but the Greyhound baseball team has not been swept all season long. They've won at least 1 game of every series.
And even this past weekend, it kind of came down to that last game, and we were able to come through, which I think says a lot about the perseverance of our staff, our players, and our team. And I'm really excited looking at the standings of just where this season might end up for the baseball team. It truly could be a kind of historic season for them. And sometimes they get lost when you're playing these nationally ranked teams and you see some scores. But when you look at the big picture and take a step back and just see how they're doing overall, it's very encouraging and makes me very happy just to watch and be a part of it.
Another sport that's going full steam right now is track and field, and the outdoor season has just barely started, and we've already had 4 school records set just in the meet so far.
Coach Harden has been fantastic. His enthusiasm, his passion, he's not too far removed from being a competitor himself. I think that kind of, bleeds into his team a little bit. He brought in a new assistant coach who's equally enthusiastic. So the energy and enthusiasm you kind of feel from the staff and around the team, it's contagious at times, and it's been really fun to watch them compete as well.
And of course, we would be remiss if we didn't mention that rodeo is going on. Of course, they have a fall season, they've got a spring season, and a pretty good showing. Their most recent showing where the Greyhound ladies finished 5th and the Greyhound guys finished 10th.
I'm learning about rodeo as I go, so I'm learning about the different events and the seasons, etc. But obviously, Coach Flynn, the athletes over there, the people around that whole group and organization, they make us such a better place, and so happy to be a part of it and watch their journey. But admittedly, I have a lot of room to grow with understanding their seasons, their teams, their competitions, and what may go in and out of the standings and the scorings, et cetera. But a journey I'm very happily on right now. It's been an amazing group to mingle with, to learn from, and hopefully continue to as we move forward.
And of course, right now we've got one sport that is technically an off season, but they are definitely on the field. That'll be football, and they're building up for their annual green and silver game.
They are. I actually went by the offices yesterday just thinking I could check in and say hello, and every room was full of players and watching film, and I felt like it was fall. So they're full steam ahead right now. It's a new coach, obviously, and a new coach as far as his first year getting ready for the upcoming season, but Coach Lee has been here prior. And you can just kind of feel a very strong enthusiasm for the upcoming year and what they want to do, and it's exciting to be around.
And we will point out that unlike some other years where the green and silver game was played on a Saturday, this year we're specifically doing it on a Friday night.
We are. There's a few different reasons we kind of went about that. We talked back and forth about family plans and weekends and different things and thought, you know what, let's try a Friday night and let's see how that might help or potentially hurt the crowd that comes out. And then we'll know for future years if we want to do it on a traditional Saturday afternoon. But we thought a Friday night might conflict a little bit less with families, children, different things that might be going on a weekend, and hopefully drive a fun crowd and a fun evening.
And another reason why we did the Friday night was so we could have a Saturday night for another event.
There you go. So we have added a banquet on the Greyhound Club itinerary, or agenda, I should say. And it's something new that we're going to bring. We have a student athlete oriented banquet, which we've done in the past, but this will be more of a donor and fundraiser and philanthropic type event where people that give and also us to give thanks to people that give can come and enjoy an evening of dinner and fellowship and conversation, awards and presentations. And we're going to do that in the arena for the first time, which should be fun. And hopefully will be the beginning of an annual event that'll bring a different type of people into our embrace and to give thanks and thanks as well.
And if people that are watching this program are interested, how can they go about getting a ticket?
Sure. So if you go to our website, goeasternathletics.com, you should have a Greyhound Club tab, and you can click on that and click on the banquet, and we would love to have you there. There's obviously a lot of different types of people coming, people that have already sponsored us, or they're community members, or administrators, or coaches. So come well. All is welcome at this event, and we're looking forward to it.
And while they're on that website, if they're not a member of the Greyhound Club, they can become a member of the Greyhound Club.
Of course they can. So we're always open to having new people come to give. That money gets used in a lot of different areas, mostly scholarships, but it supports the Hall of Honors. It supports banquets such as this. It supports special projects that come up along the way. It's a tool to basically give back to Eastern Athletics. It's a very small donation. It can be a taxable benefit if you want to just kind of do your donation and walk away. If you want to do a donation and get polos and parking passes and email updates and all those other things, that's an option as well. So it really is hopefully a good resource for alumni or people that just love Eastern and want to give back to athletics.
And you talked a little bit about the fact that there are going to be corporate sponsors that are probably going to be at the banquet. If somebody out in the viewing audience owns a business, how do they go about becoming a corporate sponsor?
Call our office. That's the easiest way to do it. Anytime, we're more than willing to sit down and talk about the things that we can provide for a business that might be of benefit to them. Exposure in different ways. It could be at a particular stadium or game or a marketing campaign. It could be online through digital marketing and email databases. There's so many different ways we can go about helping promote somebody's business or a business that wants to give to our athletics programs, and we really customize that in whatever way is of benefit to that particular person. For some businesses, there's a certain element that they want to give back to or be able to put their name out there. And for others, it's in different ways. Some don't even really care as much. They just want to give, and this is their excuse to give. So we really tailor the gift to the particular business, but they can call or reach out to us anytime, and we'll get them set up and hopefully taken care of the way that they would like.
Well, Paul, now that we've had about 8 minutes or so to warm up, I'm going to raise the intensity level here and ask you a tougher question. We've had some great success so far this year, and so this is really a tough question. But if you had to look at like one sport or maybe even one game that really stands out as being the high points to this point in time for athletics, what would you say is the high point?
That is a tough question. And I would hate to say that, Doc, because I'm going to single out a team or a player. And I really feel as though if you look at our volleyball team, they won more games this year than they did last year. If you look at our women's soccer team, they won more games this year than they did last year. If you look at our men's soccer team, obviously it wasn't hard to win more games, but they obviously got their season kind of going. The women's basketball team won more games. The men's basketball team won more games. So we're looking at baseball and softball on that same record. So I really feel like as a unit, we've taken some steps and across the board. Now, the next step is to continue to grow on that and have these conversations be about championships and be about conference tournaments and playoff berths. But you got to walk before you can run. And I really feel like, 2 years ago, I mean, my first year here, we were just kind of getting our feet wet. We were all learning. I was learning. And I feel like going into this year, I felt a lot more sure about what we could expect, what we could demand, where we needed to improve. And I feel like that's only going to improve going into next year. So I feel good about what we've done. You can point to some really fun and key moments that we've had, but I don't want to make it about one team or one person. I feel like as a group, all our teams and all our coaches and all our athletes have really demonstrated greater success across the board.
Well, Paul, congratulations on the success that we've had while you've been the athletic director, and let's hope moving forward we are talking conference championships.
I agree. Thank you so much, Doc.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up the interview segment of Sportslook for the first guest, so we'll clear the set and we'll bring in our second guest, Brandon Misaraka from Greyhound Men's Soccer, right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and a privilege to bring back to the set of Sportslook the head coach of Greyhound Men's Soccer, Brandon Misaraka. And Coach, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It doesn't seem like that long ago, Coach, that we had you on in season, but it's been a few months, and now that you've had a chance to kind of process, what are your thoughts on the season that was last fall?
Yeah, I think that for a young group, I think we saw a lot of improvement, a lot of growth individually and in the team collective. I think that the last 2 weeks were really kind of the tipping point where we saw the boys start to really fight and really understand what it takes to play, collegiate soccer at a high level.
We, of course, assume that people remember the fact that you got hired to resurrect a program that had been put on hiatus. And it's one thing when you take over a program and you just replace a coach, but to rebuild a program, you had a lot on your plate.
Yeah, that first year was crazy. And just getting everyone here, dealing with some visa items as well, and getting them enrolled in classes and that process in and of itself, but something that, maybe enjoy the madness a little bit. So it was busy times, but good times. So it is good though to be able to relax a little bit and kind of settle down. So
Of course, I asked you the question, what do you think you know going into the season? Well, what did you think you knew going into the season that actually came to be true?
Yeah, that we have a lot of very hungry, young, talented players. I think that that goes to speak for itself when you get compliments from other coaches, whether it's in our league or within this region, talking about just the talent level of the group and the excitement levels going forward. I think that we knew that going in, and that's something that's been good to continually see on a daily basis.
And of course, the fact that we were resurrecting the program when we did meant that you had absolutely no flexibility when it came to scheduling. You
Yep.
pretty much had to play every match on the road until Lone Star Conference said, yeah, you can finally play an occasional match at home.
Exactly, exactly. So that was enjoyable for some of our young student athletes to really see different parts of the country. To be fair, I had never seen South Dakota before, so that was nice. And then, for us, it was also nice to actually have our first game at home. When we did against a really good opponent, it was always better when you win that game too. So.
And it occurs to me, and you may have a different opinion, but the one advantage of a road trip is that it really brings people together and you really start to see how kids interact with each other.
Exactly. No, that was really enjoyable. We got to spend a lot of time with our student athletes on a daily basis. Just being on the road and time where you're preparing for a game, and there's a lot of downtime as well when you're on the road, to really get to experience different cultures and different ideologies as far as like how they see the game, how they approach their off days and enjoyment, what they like to eat. That's always a topic of discussion. Unfortunately, our boys don't like the same type of food that I like. I like Jimmy John's, they don't. But no, it was good.
In terms of bringing in a squad, I mean, you were starting from a blank slate. There was nobody here that had played men's soccer for Coach Friedel. So what did you look for when you were recruiting?
Yeah, we looked for just ambitious, talented footballers. Whether it was the three that I had brought from my previous school with me, those were boys that kind of knew a baseline, knew what I was all about as a coach. But I think that again, there's something special about coming into a program with really a blank slate and saying, hey, I'm gonna get after it and try to help this program win games. So. That's another thing. I mean, we kind of expected and thought that, this group would be unique in a certain sense. So,
When you recruit, and I had the privilege of being a college coach for 3 years, and you recruit and you think some kids are going to be good and they turn out to be good. And some kids underperform, some kids overperform. So if you had to look back at it and say, who was the most pleasant surprise for you?
yeah, I think that one of the most pleasant surprises might be Colin Ulrich. He really stepped up and was able to play a facet of roles when he was called upon, whether it was the center mid role or at the right back position. He did very good in that role.
And looking back at the season, I think I know the answer to this question, but I may be surprised. I quite often am. If you had to look back at the season, what was the high? If you had to point it to one match, and it could have been a match that you might have lost, but against a really good program. But what was the high point of the season?
Yeah, I think that for me, it would probably be the last match at home against TAMU. That was, really kind of the changing of the guard of, really, having young players come into now more seasoned players. So I think that, anytime that you win at home is always a good day. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed the Midwestern game. But I would say that, the game against TAMU would probably be the highlight of the season.
And see, that's why I'm glad I asked the question, because I thought that the Midwestern would have been the high point because it was your first home match.
Sure.
You're playing against a nationally ranked team and you got the 1-0 victory.
Yeah.
But come to think of it, that last home match was pretty special
Yeah,
too.
that was sweet. I mean, when backs are up against the wall, you get to really know who you are and who your team is. And so for us, I thought that was really a special game for me, just to see us come out and really battle, not just battle, but battle for points. So.
And obviously, one of the things about college athletics is that you have to say goodbye to individuals. There are certain individuals
Sure.
that, because of where they are academically, are going to leave the program. Sometimes they just are going to go on with their lives. So, who's it? Are you losing anybody? And if so, who's going to be the toughest one to say goodbye
Yeah,
to?
we're not losing anybody that we didn't know and weren't prepared to lose.
Excellent. So, if you are getting that many people back, that probably makes it a little bit easier to recruit for next fall, but you're probably still looking for talent. So, is there a specific position you're looking for, or just going to try and get the best players?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're really pretty much close to done recruiting. We are looking for one left-footed center back, and then we're done. I mean, we just had another commitment today, so it's up there where we're in a good position, especially just given the fact that we do have a really good, talented group that's really the experience level as sophomores of juniors and seniors. So this is where we're going to start to see that kind of this 1 year kind of start to pay dividends in this coming season.
So down the road, and we certainly hope that we can keep you a long time. I mean, because I really like what I saw in the last fall, and I enjoy interacting with you. So down the road, when things kind of even up, is your approach going to be that you're going to try and get the best players regardless of classification, or are you going to try and bring in a certain number of freshmen and a certain number of transfers?
Yeah, that actually started this year for us, where we knew that we were light in the junior class, so the sophomores this last year, and so we did decide that a big emphasis was going to bring in whether it was transfers, from junior college or NCAA. So that's been a big focus for us. While also still, of course, meeting our home base here by making sure that we bring in some of these New Mexico freshmen that have opportunity to represent New Mexico's team.
And we will point out that we are the only university in the
Exactly.
state of New Mexico that offers collegiate soccer.
Exactly. I have to always put that plug.
Looking at the fact that you had international players that played and played extremely well for you, what is the advantage of bringing in international players for the game of football as the rest of the world calls
Yeah,
it?
I think that it's the same advantage as any. I mean, at the same sense that you get to bring in top-end talent that have seen top-end talent, on a daily basis. So for us, when you have players that have played, with and against, pros, I mean, it's unique and it's different and allows them to give a different experience. Now, it also allows the dressing room to be unique and have many flavors. And that's something that for any student athlete, I mean, whether it's a domestic player that's getting to, learn about a different country or a different, culture, it's exciting.
And obviously, going back to a point we made earlier in our segment, the fact that you had no choice, you had to play every match on the road until Lone Star Conference time. So what can we see different this coming year?
Yeah, we're not going to travel as much. So that's going to be nice in the sense that, we're going to be able to be, fairly local or regional in basis. Is going to be something that we're really excited about. Then additionally, I think that, yeah, I mean, we're just going to be in the same area for the most part, which is nice. No more miles.
I understand South Dakota was nice once, but
It was nice once, but we would prefer not. I mean, don't get me wrong, we like to win, so like I'll go there any day of the week, but hopefully they don't see this, but but no, I mean, for us, I like to stay within the region, so that way our students can be in class more. I mean, that's important.
And then we've got about a minute left in this segment, so I'll give you a chance to talk a little bit about your program and get the news out. If people want to know more about Eastern New Mexico University men's soccer, what sites would you steer them towards?
Yeah, they can look at our Instagram page. They can look at our Facebook page. They should be on the website, if I'm not mistaken. And then, just go to enmuathletics.com and you can stay up to date with, all the fun things that are going on in men's soccer.
And do you know off the top of your head when the first home match is going to be?
The first home match of the 2023 season for fall is going to be in middle of September, I believe.
Okay. So there'll be a few matches
Yep.
on the road, and you'll be seasoned by the time
Exactly.
you get to Port Dallas.
Exactly.
Well, Coach, congratulations. I mean, I would have been really happy if you'd won one match. I mean, you did way better than that. But you told me you don't want those to be flukes. You want
Yeah.
people to assume that Greyhound soccer is going to win. So
Exactly.
best of luck with the beautiful sport.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up the interview segment of this episode of Sportslook. So what we'll do is we'll clear the set, and I will finish up with an overtime right now. When I was offered the chance in 2012 to become the host of Sportslook, the very first thing I did was make an appointment to see Mr. Ryan, the guy that was the founder of KNW back in 1974, and at the time was still the director of KNW. And I said, Mr. Ryan, thank you so much for the opportunity, and I give you my solemn word that I will do my utmost to never let you down. And Mr. Ryan gave me that kindly smile he was famous for, and he said, I'm sure you'll do just fine, Don. Well, Mr. Ryan, who I could never bring myself to call Dwayne, so Mr. Ryan is now retiring. And Mr. Ryan, if you're watching this, I hope you feel that I never did let you down. Well, that will wrap up in overtime, and that will wrap up an episode of Sportslook. I would like to thank my guests, Paul Weir and Brandon Mizuraka. Had a great floor crew. Once again, Logan was my director. So for all those aforementioned people, this is Doc Elder saying, so long.